Hey, Christopher again, and in this session, we're talking about the role of volunteers in a ministry. Now, there are many different capacities: door greeters, IT or the tech booth doing the audio, the video, the worship team on stage, obviously, the pastoral staff, could be a care ministry, could be a recovery ministry, could be small group leaders. There are just a number of areas that folks will serve in a church. We're going to cherry pick deacons for right now because in the very next passage of 1 Timothy that we just read, we see the qualifications for a deacon. It says in verse 8, deacons likewise must be dignified, not double-tongued, not addicted to much wine, not greedy for dishonest gain. They must hold the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience, and let them also be tested first, then let them serve as deacons if they prove themselves blameless. We see this idea that volunteers ultimately have a standard. They have a place in the church. Now, I picked the deacons to be my example here because when I was in college, I remember I was serving as a waiter at the Holiday Inn in Thibodaux. And I was struggling because work wanted me to work on weekends, sometimes on Sundays. And obviously my convictions dictated that I needed to be in a place of worship, gathering with a community of believers. And I was reading the Bible, and specifically in Acts early on, where the early apostles are struggling with the very same thing I was. There was more practical needs than what I had time for. And at one point they say, "Shall we neglect the word of God to wait on tables?" And that spoke to me because I realized that I was literally waiting on tables and that I didn't need to neglect the word of God. Now, the bigger point here, and not necessarily for deacons alone, but the early apostles and disciples realized very quickly that in order for them to succeed, in order for the gospel to go forward, the nuts and bolts had to get taken care of, but it wasn't always falling to them. Now, there's a difference between willing to do it and ultimately needing to do it. And there are things that you have been gifted as a pastor and pastoral staff have been gifted in that others may not be. And you have to be able to delegate some of these duties with different areas to folks. Now, that's tough for us to let go, but it's important to understand that without volunteers, ultimately, when we look at things like Acts, specifically Pentecost, these would not have been the major impact moments for the church, Big C Church, that they were if they had not had administrative and servant leaders filling in all the other details that they couldn't get to because they were busy sharing the gospel and evangelizing. So when we're looking at it, there are so many roles, there are so many responsibilities for volunteers. There's more than enough opportunity, and obviously, in order for you to succeed, you've got to get out of the way and let them take the forefront and lead areas that you just don't have time, expertise, or ultimately just don't need to do. Others can do it, and what a gift it is to let them share in that joy that you get to experience every day, helping build up the church and lift others up. That's it for this session. In our next session, we're going to be talking about the different types of volunteers that you're going to run into in your context.